So after we're done with the basics and the actual setup and registering and everything else of the Coppermine gallery, we're ready to actually go into more practical stuff, and we'll see how to create users and how to create galleries, albums, and how to add photographs in the next few video tutorials. Okay, so let's start off with the users. So the last option in the main menu here is the users, and if you click on this link users, it will take you to a page that looks like this, and basically this is all of the users that are actually registered on your webpage. At the moment I only have one, which is myself, which is the admin. So you have the username here, you have the availability to view the profile, to edit the profile, and to actually see whether or not this person has uploaded any of the files. The status here gives you whether or not this is active. So at the moment my admin user is active. The groups it belongs to, so my admin belongs to a group called administrator, the time of the registration, last visit, number of comments, number of files, and I have the space used by this particular member, so by my admin. Okay, so this is the list of all of the users. This is the user manager where you see all of the users, and you can actually go and hit on create new user, and you would actually create a new user. But before we do that, what I'll do is I'll go back to the users, and this time I'll go and let's have a look at my profile first. Okay, so here you'll find some information about your profile. So I'm looking at the admin's profile now, so I'll find the username, whether or not the status has been active, the time the person has joined. So myself, I've joined on this date, the group I belong to, I'll find some interests, some website information here, occupation, and the biography here as well. So most of the options available here are actually available here as well, but if you do go into users, my profile, you'll find some more information, and basically you can type in your location, your interests, the website, occupation, and the biography. Okay, so let's go back to the users menu, and let's now go into the groups. Here you'll find all the groups that are actually on your registered on your website. So this is the group manager. At the moment I have 3 groups. I have the administrator, I have the registered, and I have guests. So this is the name of my actual groups. Okay, then I have the permissions. So basically this is saying what is this group of people allowed to do. Okay, so whether or not they're allowed to rate, so rating, e-cards, and comments. So my administrator, as you would assume, is actually allowed to do all of this, but when I come to, for example, guests, they are actually available to do rating, they're not available to do e-cards, and not allowed to actually send any comments. Okay, then we move into public album uploads, so whether or not those people can, you know, upload stuff to the public libraries or public albums. Of course, the administrator is allowed, and administrator does not need anyone's approval to actually do that. However, my registered users, they are allowed to actually upload to the public albums, but they need the approval. When it comes to the guests, they are not allowed to actually upload any of the images into my public albums, and thus they are actually not required any approval. Apart from the public library, there's also a personal library, and pretty much the same options are listed here as well. So the admin is allowed to have, you know, personal gallery and does not require any approval, while the registered user are allowed to have personal galleries, but they do actually not need to have the approval, as is the case in the administrator group as well. And if we move back to the public albums, the actual registered users needed to actually get some approval before they can actually have their photographs or pictures or images actually published in the public albums. However, for their personal gallery, they do not need any approval. Okay, moving to guests. Once again, the guests are not allowed to actually have personal galleries, and thus they do not require any approval. Now we move to the last option here, and this is the access level. So for example, if I look at the administrator, the options are all the same. So there is none, thumbnails only, thumbnails and intermediate images, thumbnails, intermediate, and full-size images. So basically you can leave this as it is, and basically you're setting up your access level to all of these different groups. So for example, if I was to say that my guests, for example, are only allowed to look at thumbnails, they would not be able to actually zoom in and open some pictures and have them in full size and have, you know, the intermediate pictures and whatnot. Okay, so I'll leave that as it is, and if you do make any changes here, make sure you hit on the apply changes button, which is located right here next to the create new group. And what I will do now is I'm actually going to do exactly that, and I'm going to create a new group. Okay, to create a new group, we hit this button, create new group. And as soon as you hit on create new group, a new row here will be shown like this, and basically creating a new group with Coppermine gallery is very easy. First of all, you have to give it a name. So we already have registered, we have guest, let's call this group friends. So website friends, and basically permissions, I'm going to give them everything, all of the options like so. Whether or not they're allowed to publish in public albums, yes, and I'll say they do not need any approvals. Personal gallery, I'll say yes, yes, and I'll keep this to thumbnail, intermediate, and full size images. I hit on apply changes, and actually I have just created a new group of people that's actually called friends. Okay, so that's how you would go about creating different groups of people. Once you have created a group of people, the logical next step would actually be to create some members to actually go into that group. So what we do is we'll go to users, and here we'll create a new user. There's a link here, a button that actually says create new user, and this is what we're going to do. Okay, so here is my create new user form, and basically the username I will put here, I will put the password, whether or not this user is active, user group, restricted, admins, friends, guests. So if I go and say this is my friend, and actually I can hit on this checkbox here as well, then I would put the email of that user, the location, interest, website, occupation, biography, and whether or not I would like to actually send login data to this user. And you can see that the password will be sent via email. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll quickly go and I'll add some users here. For example, in each group I'm going to add one more user. Okay, so I've entered some information here for my first user, and my first user is going to be called friend1. I'm going to put this particular person in group called friends. I enter the email, enter the location, the interest, for example nature, their website, their particular occupation, and the biography, and I'll hit on this checkbox here, and we'll see now what happens when I hit on the submit button. It will ask me to remember or not remember this particular information. I can click no, and straight ahead you can see that we have a new member here. Okay, and the additional option we have here is to ban this user. We cannot ban the admin, but any other user we can actually ban them from from our website. Okay, what I'll do now is, like I've said, I'll create a couple of more users and I'll put them in different groups. All right, so let me do that quickly. Okay, so basically I have just created a few more users. Basically I have guest1, which belongs to a group called guest. I have Anna, which belongs to the administrator group, so I have two admins now. I have John, who belongs to a registered group of users, and I have friend1, which we have seen before, who belongs to a group called friends. Okay, so basically this is how you would go about creating new groups and how to add new users to your new groups. And of course people can sign from your web page and create users for themselves rather than actually you creating the users yourself from this page, but basically you can use these options here to do so. So once again I went to the users, and then I went to the groups, I create a couple of more groups, and then I went back to users and I've added a few more users. Now the ban users option here, so let's hit on this ban users, and basically I do not have any users banned here, but what I can do is I can actually enter the information here, and this will actually ban the users. And the options there I have, first of all, is the username, so I will type username here, their email address, the IP address, and when this actually expires, this ban. And there's a little icon here which says 12, so date 12, and basically if you hit on that little icon, a calendar like this will open, and you can select, for example, let's say September 2nd 2016, that this ban will actually expire. The option here is to delete the comments, current, all, or none. So basically if you have any of this information, so basically the name, username, the email address of this user, the IP address of this user, you can use that to actually ban this particular user. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. Or once you actually filled all the information here, you can hit on OK, and after that it will actually ban that particular user. Also, you have the IP address lookup, which you can actually put in here and search for the actual banned users. Okay, so basically this is one way of banning the users. The more easier way is if we go back to the users. Like I said, there's this little icon here which will actually ban users from your website. And let's say that I want to ban, for example, my guest one. I'll hit on that little icon and it will take me straight to the same page we were on before, and basically you can see that guest one has been entered as the username for this particular user. And if I say the date I would like it to have, so for example tomorrow, I'll hit on OK, and this is actually going to be recorded here. Ban ID number 1, whether or not I would like to delete it, username, and basically the date when this expires. Okay, so this is how you would go about dealing with your users and the groups of your users. All right, and basically we'll have a look now how to create some albums, how to create some album categories, and how to actually add some photographs to our webpage.